There is one specific powerhouse of a move that I want to show you guys in this video, and it's related to river play. If you've been following my channel, you'll know that one of the biggest things that I talk about is the fact that most of your win rate is going to come from effective turn and river play. The mistakes that you might make on the flop and pre-flop will definitely compound to bigger turn and river mistakes. But ultimately, it's turns and especially rivers that are going to influence your win rate the most. So there's one move that is completely underused by the pool that I want to explain how to use properly right here in this very short video. And this is going to be the notorious river bluff raise. So starting off very simply, people will overfold against river bluff raises. The reason why is quite straightforward. Most regs will generally anticipate that river raises are going to be underbluffed, which will cause them to overfold. And this is a perception that actually extends all the way up until the highest stakes imaginable. I have the names blurred out here, but I am working with some very high stakes players at the moment, and I have a hand that demonstrates this concept. Just rewinding it to the start, you can see that the button is opening to 2.5 big blinds, this player is calling, and on the flop they hold a top pair. They elect to simply check call this top pair against the small bet, but on the turn they hit a 2 pair. They face an overbet and they actually go for a raise, which is definitely allowed at a small frequency in the solver, and on the river it's the 7 of diamonds. So this is a flush closing river, and it divides this player's range into 2 parts. It's going to be the very strong hands like the nut flushes, and it's also going to be some of the weaker hands like the weaker flushes, as well as whatever sets and 2 pairs they raised with on the turn. So those weaker hands a lot of times are going to be betting a little bit smaller, and they actually face a raise from this opponent. So this is a hand that could definitely go either way, but it's an easy decision for this player, even at the very high stakes, simply due to the fact that this spot is going to be underbluffed. And so this player elects to fold. And the thing is, if you take a look at our software here, you'll notice that King 10 is actually the indifferent hand against the raise in this spot. So the fact that this player is folding King 10 really signals that they think that this is an underbluff spot. This isn't really one where balance matters too much, so people will either always call or always fold if they think that it's going to be underbluffed. This is not the only spot where people are going to overfold against bluff raises. In fact, people are going to overfold against river raises in pretty much every single spot, both in single raise pots as well as in 3-bet pots. I have the spots listed out right here, but I also have a nice visual which summarizes my findings. It's just this image right over here, and you can see that when players are the IPPFR, OOPPFC, OOPPFR, or IPPFC, they are overfolding pretty much every single spot, besides when they take check bet in SRP OOPPFC, same thing when they are the IPPFR, and then you just don't really want to bluff raise against call bet or against call bet when they're the in position preflop caller. But every other line is going to be quite effective for bluff raising. But, and this is the key point for the video, if people start thinking that you are overbluffing rivers, it's not really going to work out quite this well. And there's a few reasons why I arrive at this conclusion. The first one is obviously just experience, both playing and then also working with a lot of different players. Everybody generally agrees on the same idea, but there's also a few interesting things when you take a look at mass data. One of those things is that rivers are typically going to be defended a little bit more if the player who is making the bet uses a small bet size. In this completely hypothetical example, big blind decides to make a third pot-sized bet, and button is going to raise to 17.5 big blinds. This is actually a spot where bluff raising is going to be worse for button because people are more likely to call when they bet small. When people are betting small on the river, they intuitively understand that they are representing a very weak range, and so they're thinking, okay, this player caught me, they know I have a weak range, so I might as well just call here because I think they're more likely to bluff. But if big blind actually uses a bigger bet, maybe with a stronger hand like a top pair, and then they face a raise, that is going to be a signal of strength, and that is going to cause people to fold a lot more frequently. So the concept there is, if people perceive the river raise to be a little bit weaker, then obviously they're going to be far more likely to call. And this actually presents a pretty unique problem for people who are trying to bluff raise. That unique problem is the fact that bluff raises are going to be quite rare in theory, and therefore they're going to be quite difficult to find. Looking at the flip side for the hand we looked at earlier, this is button's raising strategy on the river. You'll see that the value is comprised of flushes, straights, as well as sets, because those hands are all strong enough to raise against the two pairs, which big blind is going to be betting small. And all of those hands together are going to be around 21 combos. But if we deselect all of these hands and instead select all of the two pairs, over pairs, and everything that's weaker, you'll see that these hands are only raising 10% of the time, and there's only 8.3 combos of bluff raises. It is a very small amount due to the fact that big blind is getting terrific odds to call the raise since they've already invested a little bit in the pot. When combo selection is this nuanced, it's very easy to mess up. People usually don't think about bluff raising with hands like king-jack offsuit or king-9 offsuit, but you'll see that these are very common bluff raises in the solver. Players might feel like they don't want to raise with a hand unless they're absolutely certain that it has exceptional blockers, and so they'll choose to call and instead wait until they hold something like ace-10 of diamonds, which has a much more natural and a much more intuitive blocker. The point here is that it's very easy to underdo it, and you're simply leaving a lot of EV on the table because the overfold is very, very big in the data. It's like a 5% overfold for many of those spots, and some spots it's even bigger, and in river spots, that equates to a lot of chips, right? It really sucks to hold something like king-jack and then not take this opportunity every once in a while. And so, in my opinion, to bluff raise rivers effectively, it's actually quite important to look at a few different solutions and get an understanding for a few basic concepts for how the solver bluff raises. And those are going to be the things that I'm going to teach you right now. But before we get into that, I want to cover one very important concept about river bluff raising. And this is the fact that blockers are actually not going to matter in the way that you might think. Let me explain. So this is a completely random river. It's king 8, 5, jack 3, played as button versus big blind. Big blind decides to check call against 30% pot on the flop. The turn simply goes check, check. Big blind goes for an overbet on the river, and then they're facing a 100% pot size raise. So the defending threshold for big blind is going to include mostly top pairs. Obviously, people are not really going to call with top pairs against this line because they perceive this raise to be incredibly strong. Assuming that players are overfolding here by a modest 10%, which is very realistic according to the data, button is actually able to raise with almost 100% of their range on the river. Just as a quick side-by-side comparison, this over here was the raising strategy before, and this is the raising strategy given that big blind is just overfolding by 10%. In this sim, they are still bluff catching sometimes with their top pairs, so people are probably overfolding a bit more in this spot in practice. So the fact that button is able to bluff raise any two cards on this river spot shows us that the EV of bluff raising with our hand is not going to be impacted all that much by blockers. Obviously, there are going to be some hands which are far better as bluff raises than others, but everything is more or less going to be the same because our opponent is going to overfold by a significant margin. However, I think that understanding blockers is still important for two reasons. Number one is that it keeps your overall table image quite sane. If you're bluff raising with complete trash here, like ace deuce or pocket sixes or something weak like that, it definitely feels like you're getting far too out of line. People might start overcalling because, again, the exploit only works because people think that you're under bluffing here. You have to keep up that table image. And the second reason I think understanding blockers is important is because it actually keeps your bluff raising frequency very close to the solvers. If you're able to look at a river spot and you can at least loosely identify which sort of hands are going to be good as bluff raises, then you can make sure that your overall frequency isn't too high and it's also not too low. Again, if it's too low, you're leaving chips on the table, and if it's too high, then you're just going to be playing like a maniac. Now, believe me, I know what you're thinking. It's very difficult to identify which hands have good or bad blockers for bluff raising. To solve your problem, I have a very simple three-step method. I actually have it written out right over here. First thing you want to do is to identify your value. You'll typically want to bluff raise with hands that overlap a little bit with your value, and you also want to understand how much value you have in a spot to know if you're even able to bluff raise to begin with. The second thing is to identify your opponent's bet calls. So what are the strongest hands that they are betting in the spot? Usually you'll want to block those. And the final step is to identify your opponent's bet folds. Those are typically going to be the hands that they bluff, and of course you just want to unblock those. Note that the hands that your opponent bet folds are supposed to be different in practice than in the solver. Bluff raising is a fantastic exploit because people are going to overfold hands like top pairs or weak 2 pairs. And so if the opponents are going to be folding them, then you want to make sure you unblock them. Whereas the solver might want to prioritize blocking them a bit more because they're supposed to bet call them at least sometimes. And now the final thing to do is to put this 3-step method into practice. In order to do that, I'm going to go to the drill pack gallery and add the bluff raising drills over to my custom deck. Let's do one of them together. In this spot, we are holding 6-5 as big blind, and we decided to check call on the flop. There was check on the turn, and now we're deciding whether or not to bluff raise on the river. So going through the 3 steps, the first thing we want to do is identify our value. On the river, it's mainly going to come from slow plays. So these will be hands like pocket 6s, pocket 5s, maybe some 7x, which form straights here, that are checking with the intent to check raise. The second thing we want to think about, what are going to be our opponent's bet calls? Those are going to be the strongest hands in our opponent's range. It's definitely going to be a little bit of quads. It's going to be hands like 9-8, which form very strong full houses, but there's also going to be pocket 6s here and pocket 5s at least a little bit of the time. Now, the straights and the 9x could definitely go either way. Those are going to be the hands that we're trying to get our opponent to overfold. So if you're playing in this spot and you don't think that your opponent is really going to fold a lot of trips or a lot of straights, then it's a spot where you do not want to bluff raise at all. But we're going to assume that our opponent does overfold with those hands and we don't block them, which is always a good thing. And then the final thing to think about is what other bet folds do they have in their range? Our opponent shouldn't really be bluffing with their 6x or their 5x here, because those have a little bit of showdown value against our ace highs, our king highs. So a hand like 6-5 actually does not block any of their bluffs. 6-5 will block some of their value, which is going to be pocket 6s and pocket 5s, and it is not going to block their bluffs, which are primarily going to come from overcards. Based on that, we can select one of the responses. I made this one, but I actually forget. I'm going to go with the high frequency here, and it looks like I got it correct. So good for me. All of the drills in this drill pack, as well as the other river raise one specifically for 3-bet pots, are going to have pretty detailed explanations that help you truly understand how the solver selects specific bluff raising combos. And that is it for the video. The key points are, number 1, people are overfolding against river raises, and you want to do it at the correct frequency. Number 2, bluff raising is not going to be effective if they use a smaller bet size. Number 3, there's a few lines you want to avoid, like call bet bet or call bet. You don't want to bluff raise against those. And number 4, you want to choose the right bluff raising combos in order to prevent yourself from being overly aggressive and also just missing out on profitable bluff raising opportunities. If you want more practice with river bluff raises, I encourage you to check out Savant. I created a whole course specifically on selecting river bluff raises with some very highly detailed annotated solutions, as well as a lot of drills. We're going to be running 30% off for all Savant courses for a few weeks. By the time you see this video, it's probably going to go live. But if not, then I definitely encourage you to check it out anyways and try it even for just a month to really get the most out of the courses that we have available, as well as the practice hub. This has been Glub with Savant, and I will see you guys in the next video.